Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO and founder of Project Cars Anonymous, ironically, has a PCA. I don't know if you knew that when you created Project Cars Anonymous. What is PCA? You are the CEO of PCA. And elite Skitlord, Michael Gideon. And I was like, I said, I was going to have a big crowd screaming and everything like that, but I forgot the clip. So that's is what it is.
That's all right.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm good. How is your post-rally blues?
It's like enough time has gone by now where, kind of back into the swing of things, but it's definitely a thing, just a few days after the rally, you're kind of like, now what? There's just so much excitement that happens when you do these big trips and stuff. And it takes a little adjusting getting back to.
You think it's the lead up or the event itself? Is it like everything leading up to it and then you do it and then it's just the nothing, or what causes it?
Yeah, I think it's just the anticipation of, going on a big adventure with friends and, some of the elements of unknown and things like that, and exploration. And then the event itself, it's I think it's a combination of just like the social. We were literally in Cars Vacation Land this last one in Utah. You're driving around feeling like you're in the Cars movie.
Michael.
Yes.
Sports Car Vacation Land.
Sports Car Vacation Land.
Yeah.
Please forgive me.
Get the tagline right, dude. Come on, man. Come on, man. So you drove the green Targa out there, man. That was I was absolutely waiting for a phone call that just goes, dude, I'm in the middle of Nevada, man. I don't know. It didn't make it, man. I'm really sorry. Because we were working on doing stuff with like CSF and Overcrest and collaborating together. And I was just waiting for that call. Sorry, dude. Car broke down.
Oh, totally. That's that was part of the reason that made this trip it felt a little miraculous, because I was in fact, a few days before, I wasn't even excited to go on the trip. Up until the moment I left, I wasn't really that excited, because I knew I was probably going to be coming home, on a tow truck, sitting shotgun, or just working on the thing throughout the entire trip. So the fact that the car, not only did it really have no major problems, but it actually drove really awesome was completely surprising.
Where'd this car come from?
I bought it in Texas, off of Pelican Parts Forum. I saw it on there. It had been for sale for probably a year, maybe even a couple years. This guy was trying to sell it, and I kept popping up. It was this, this old race car, a Targa race car. Looked pretty janky.
Looked terrible.
And yeah, it looked so bad. And so I kept looking at it, but I'm like, man, the price, it's not that expensive.
Tell me about the hold on. So tell me about the guy that races a Targa. Like what is the first of all, what's that choice? Is that
so I don't know who owned it when it originally became a race car. It was a race car when the previous owner had it. He bought it as a race car and continued to race it. So he didn't convert it. Okay. But the guy I bought it from was eccentric.
What do you mean?
He was like an eccentric engineer with kind of crazy hair. He reminded me a little bit of Doc from Back to the Future.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say Bob Ross. Like if Bob Ross raced cars. Can you imagine like little Bob Ross being like, yeah, little taillight here, little rearview mirror here. Let's put a little headlight here. Yeah, cute little headlight.
This guy, he was an aerospace engineer, and he had white, like it looked like he had a perm. He was really smart. I mean, you could tell he was a smart guy, and but he was pretty interesting. But yeah,
was he racing the car?
FCP Euro is an online retailer of OE, OEM, genuine aftermarket, and performance parts for European cars. From BMW to Porsche, Volvo, and more, their catalog is a one-stop shop with over 275,000 unique products, including expert assembled kits to make shopping simpler. Actively building out the Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche catalogs from current to our favorite classics, including the Mark I Scirocco freeride car, they are working to have every part you need for all of your cars. Plus, every product they sell is backed by a lifetime replacement guarantee. Even wear items like wiper blades, brake pads, and oil filters, lifetime warranty. With the opening of their distribution center in Mesa, Arizona, FCP Euro is now shipping parts from both coasts, serving most of the country in 3 days or less with free shipping. We at Overcrest have been working with FCP Euro for years and can vouch for them. They are real people who are passionate about what they do and the cars we love, while making sure to put you, the customer, first. Check them out today at fcpeuro.com and take advantage of free shipping on any order over $49.
He was, yeah. So he was racing it, and he would tear the motor down and rebuild it. He had all kinds of race cars. When I showed up, he had a big shop out in the middle of Texas, and a lot of 914s. He had a lot of 914s, some 911s, but he had this big shop with I want to say he probably had 5 or 6 motors on stands that he was building, and I think he was like a semi-retired, aerospace engineer. I think Lockheed Martin would fly him back out from Texas to come and he was working as like a consultant or something like that. But he had a lot of time on his hands, so he was building these motors and racing. He was definitely racing this vintage series. So he bought the car in 2011. So I've had it 3 years. So he was racing it for somewhere around a decade. But he was one of those guys. He told me I'd tear the motor down after every season and rebuild the entire engine. So when I bought the car, it had this race motor in it, and it was fast. It ran really good. It didn't leak any oil or anything. The car had been hit in a bunch of different places, being a race car. So he suspected it was probably a racer for, 10 years before he had gotten it, but he wasn't really sure. So
like 15, 20 years ago. So we're talking late 90s, probably. It was a race car.
Yeah.
And that car was absolutely worthless in the late 90s. Who wanted a 2 whatever liter green Targa?
Right.
Nobody.
No, nobody. And it had probably been sitting outside, and and it had been getting water inside of it. Although it didn't have you saw it. They didn't, like, the body shop that did the car, they didn't replace the floors or anything like that.
No, it's not a rusty car. I mean, it's a solid car. It's a solid car that there's I think along terms of what could I do that's in that vein. People convert things to race cars. Could I get like a 996 GT3 or something was converted to a PCA club racer, and then like somehow return that back? Because that's the only way I could ever afford something. Is if I can only afford cars that someone else totally fucked up, and then I can waste all my money slowly unfucking it and spending more than if I would have just bought the unfucked car to begin with. But it allows me to space it out.
What you just described is still a $75,000 to $100,000 car, I'm sure, to do a 996 GT3.
Yeah, but if it's a race car, it's like some shitty race car that's been run into like 50 times, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, but the metalwork. Well, you're nutty enough that you would probably tear the whole thing apart and do it in your garage and
try
rip your hair out and then make it awesome. However long it takes you. But
so you did a lot
for the rest of us
DIY on this green car, and I see the green car as when I think of Michael Gideon, I don't think of that car. That's not the car I think of. I think of your 912. I don't think you've got an olive car, you've got a G-body car that's white, you've got the 912, and you have the Targa, right? But when I think of you, I think of that 912. I think of you slaving away. I feel like that is the car that really taught you what working on cars is like. I think that car taught you a lot of good things. I think it kicked your ass. Tell me about, because this is this is kind of a new thing for you. You're like a new, I don't know how to explain this. It's from like,
A
a lot of people would
new
see it as like,
renter.
would see it as like an insult, like, oh, you're new, right? Which I don't think is fair. I think a lot of people see this, oh, like you're new to this, which I think is fine. A lot of people are, don't like, they would assume that you just jumped on the bandwagon or something like that. But from what I see from your content, that's not the case. But tell me about this 912 and why you started working on things yourself and that journey. How does that start for someone?
Well, before I even started on the 912, it was actually my white Carrera, and I had never pulled a motor on a car until I did it on that Carrera, and that was right before the Utah Rally, the first time around with Overcrest. So I finished that a month before. No, probably it was. I was working up until the day we left. I'm sure for that one. Yeah, of course I was, but I did the clutch. I did I pulled the motor out. I never done a clutch on a car. Never done anything like that. And um, and so the white car was actually really where it kind of started. Because before I owned that car, I pretty much never turned a wrench in my life. So it was the white car and then the 912.
Why did you start to do that yourself? Like, what was the motivation behind that? Was it necessity or was it desire?
Yeah, like a little bit of both. So I always really wanted to work on cars, even from a young age. My dad was a hot rodder. So I grew up in, seeing photos of his old cars, and then also, getting rides in my dad's, like he had, a 69 Camaro. When I was a little kid, I remember sitting in, I think he had I think it was a 67 convertible. It was a Camaro, like red on red, and getting rides around town in that. He also had a little rat rod. But we also did motorcycle stuff as kids. And so I was around cars and motorcycles since I was born, but I never worked, I raced dirt bikes as a kid, but I never worked on anything. My dad worked on all our stuff, and I just knew where the gas went, and would just,
Did he not try to
you know,
like put a wrench in your hand? Was that just not his style?
no, he didn't. He never did. And so,
Why not?
yeah,
Why do you think he didn't try to get you involved?
I don't know. Well, I think my dad was working a full-time job, and he only had he got 1 week. He was in the car business, so he only got one weekend off a month. And that weekend we'd always go riding dirt bikes. And if he had another day off or whatever, we would go ride dirt bikes. So I think he was prepping the bikes and everything and making sure that when we went out to go and hang out and ride, we would just have fun.
Mhm.
So I'm one of three boys. And so I'm not sure, but he never. The other thing was we had, the bikes were not they were not terrible. They were pretty decent, nice little dirt bikes. So I think they ran pretty good. He wasn't buying project bikes and stuff like that.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I mean, he was always wrenching on stuff, and has been a garage guy forever. And so obviously I got some of that as a kid, but I never worked on anything. And then being around my grandpa was a machinist, and he'd work on, he was a mechanic as well, parts of his life. So
Did you just not
I was,
care? Did it not occur to you? How did this?
oh no, I was just so focused on sports. So
Okay.
I was so obsessed with sports. So I raced dirt bikes from 4 or 5 years old. We weren't like that family that was just going every weekend like crazy, but we rode a lot. And then, and I was doing some races, probably just whenever, just a few races here and there. But when I was about 13, I don't know, I think I was 13 or 14, I got into golf. My dad took me to the golf course, and I got hooked. And then I was just like, this is all I'm doing. So in high school, I had friends that, all my friends were gearheads. They took auto shop, and I didn't have time for that because I just had to, I was waiting. I was watching the clock in school, just waiting for waiting for the bell to ring so I could go and practice. And so even though I loved cars and I admired all my friends that were working on their cars and stuff, and I would listen to their conversations, and occasionally, like if I hung out with them, if I wasn't practicing, I'd hang around them. And I was fascinated by just the fact that my friends could fix their own stuff. I really respected it. I thought it was cool, and I wanted the skill. One of my best friends in high school, his dad owned an auto shop. Well, he owned a shop, and so I have some fun memories of like just going to his shop, and he'd put the car up on the lift. It's like 7 p.m. Shop's closed. He'd go and use his dad's one of the lifts in the shop, put the car up, and he like showed me a little bit like how to, I learned how to weld just a small amount. He was changing. He made a full custom exhaust on one of his cars. So getting the chance to kind of do little things like that, it sort of gave me the, just the bug for like having the desire to want to do something like that. But I just didn't have the time.
I didn't make the time. You in?
I don't know. Just got hooked right away. And I just loved it. I think I just liked how difficult the game was. I'm not really sure. It is a really difficult game.
If you're sitting in class and you're watching the clock waiting, like what, I mean, what was it the challenge to yourself? Was it the improvement? Was it, getting better than you were last time?
AC Solutions offers complete plug-and-play air conditioning conversion kits for your classic BMW, such as the E30, E28, and E24, and soon-to-be Porsche. Featuring OEM quality components with period-correct finishes and materials, their products are designed as a drop-in upgrade to your old factory system, but with the performance of modern technology. Their products stem from hands-on design and development with a deep knowledge and passion for these vehicles. They're designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts and come complete with a full warranty and quality instructions mirroring those of a factory manual. Check them all out at acsolutions.co. That's acsolutions.co. CSF Cooling has always been at the forefront of quality products for a fair price. With a rich history stretching over 7 decades, they provide the best high-performance and OEM Plus cooling systems on the market today. CSF offers over 3,000 different cooling applications for the most popular makes and models on the road today. From classic copper brass radiators for Land Cruisers, Jeeps, and Datsuns, to vintage 80s Mercedes, BMW, and Audi and Porsche platforms, all the way up to new vehicles. Check out their expanding Classic Series lineup and be sure to check them out at csfrace.com or on social media.
Yeah, it was the challenge of like mastering the game. Like how much better, because golf is a sport you cannot master it. I mean, you can get damn close and you can have days that are close to mastery, but you cannot master the game basically. And there's so many variables and factors, and it's so difficult. But I think just that pursuit really just sucked me in. I just liked it. I liked the way it felt when you hit the ball, and I like seeing it fly and all that kind of stuff. So, but I played. I mean, I think the first time I played, it was like, whoa, this is good. And then, I think the golf courses are always on the most beautiful pieces of property as well. Lots of trees and stuff. But yeah,
it's too bad you sucked at it, huh? Were you good? Were you good at it?
Yeah, I was good at it. I won. So I started competing probably about a year and a half, 2 years into playing the game, and started playing junior golf tournaments. And I was getting whooped by all the kids for probably a year or two. And then I started winning. Then I started winning some tournaments, and I ended up getting a scholarship to college. So that was kind of my goal. I was like, I'd love to play on the PGA Tour, but it would be a big thing to go to college. My parents told me, they said, if you want to go to college, you got to figure it out, because we're not going to pay for it. Right. And so I saw that as my ticket.
Were you good because of your how hard you were working, or did you have an innate talent?
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, my parents have, people have kind of always told me like, oh, you kind of pick things up quickly, but there's no doubt it was just like complete obsession and an inordinate amount of time just hitting balls, chipping and putting, and doing it all.
So
So,
why are you playing golf right now? What happened?
oh, I got well, you're good in your hometown, and then you go to the bigger, now it's like in the county, and then it's the state, and then it's the country, and
It's like the hot
it
girl
gets
from Mississippi going to LA and being like, "Oh."
yeah, yeah. So I was winning. So in high school,
Sorry,
I probably
Mississippi. Sorry about that. I don't know if any listeners are in Mississippi. My bad.
I probably won almost every high school golf tournament that I played in. I went to like a private school for 2 years. First 2 years, I got kicked out of private school for fighting, and then they didn't have a golf team. And then I went, which it wasn't anything crazy. It was just a silly, dumb little fight. But
Dude, what do you mean? You got kicked out of school? Did you beat the kid down, or
no, I wish it was some epic tale of kaba, a big uppercut that made him go flying. But no, it was. I remember hitting him. I remember thinking back on it. I'm like, man, I didn't hit him very hard. Yeah, I wish I did. I didn't know how to throw a punch, But so it actually kind of worked out for me because I wanted to play high school golf. I actually wanted to go to a public school, so that was not intentional, but it resulted in me going to a public school that had a golf team, and then I played there, and yeah, like I said, I won pretty much every high school tournament I played in, and was like the CIF champ both years, and then ended up going to college, played for Fresno State, and I was a pretty good freshman in college. I played pretty much every tournament for the 4 years that I was there, and I won a Division I tournament as a freshman, which is kind of a big deal. It's not like a one-on-one match. You're playing 10 to 12 schools with 5 guys, and these are all everybody's good. So
sure.
you've got to really be playing. In fact, there might be more than 10 schools. They might even have. I remember it being about 100.
Downhill from there, huh?
It was all downhill, man. I got burned out on the game, and like halfway through, I'm like, man, there's other things to life. All I have done is just spent time on a golf course the last 6-7 years, so.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I don't know if that's how you pick chicks up at the bar too. Hey, what do you do? I'm like, I play golf.
No, no,
it's not dangerous. It's not like,
no,
yeah, it doesn't work out.
uh-uh.
Okay,
No, no, no.
so you bailed on the golf, and then you moved on to just beating up people. You got you got a little sense of it, beating up that guy at the private school, and then decided that you didn't hit him very hard and decided to start training, or what? What
Then I
people
was
may
just
not
fighting.
know is that you train a lot in jujitsu.
Yeah, well, I got into it with a guy who looked like Bob Barker on the golf course, and we
What?
just no, I'm just kidding.
I was like, holy shit! What do you know?
No, no. I didn't start training jujitsu until after college. So I picked that up.
Was that
Like in
because you
20.
had nothing to pour yourself into? I mean, I just imagine you pouring years. I mean, doing the math, I mean, you poured 6 to 8 years into golf, maybe a little bit more, and then
Yeah, it
that
was like 8-9
disappears.
years.
What do you do then? You've just taken this vessel that you have completely filled up with every bit of yourself and gone, okay, that's done. And then you put it over here. Now what? You can't just turn that
Right.
off.
Right. Then I was working I was working my first real job right out of college. And so I started training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and that was definitely, it was a new thing for me to obsess over and try to, and just try to get better at every time I'd show up. So, but yeah, that wasn't, it was, I always wanted to be able to fight, and and learn. It's just a skill that I feel like is, it's useful, and so it's a way to do something and not go and get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, but it also becomes part of there's more to just have it of it being a skill. It is what I would consider a lifestyle choice, right? It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of, I mean, I wouldn't try to do it and hurt myself and went, that's enough. Like I just like,
And I don't know if people know this. I don't know if you've ever talked about this on the podcast. Do people know that you wrestled?
nah, probably not. No, they have
Oh
no
yeah.
idea.
Well,
Yeah.
Overcrest fans, Chris wrestled in high school,
Yep.
and I felt the man up. He's solid. Don't wrestle him unless you're really big.
I also cannot. I have no striking capability whatsoever. I remember I got picked on a lot because I was small. You know, that's one of the reasons why I was like, I'm going to go do wrestling. I was a small kid, and I remember being in the locker room, and this dude I don't remember what, he just would not shut up. You know, look at you, you skinny little fucker, blah blah blah. And I took the biggest swing at this guy. I just was standing there looking down, you know, just in front of him with my fist balled up. It's just the quintessential little guy with the big dude, and he's just sitting there just steaming. And I go, I'm going to hit this guy as hard as I can. I'm going to hit him as hard as I can. And he's talking, like just squawking as I'm thinking about this. And I sit there and I just go, whoa! And I just whiffed. And I didn't even hit him. Like I went right in front of his face, just like this. And he just went, and he took my head and he just pushed me away and walked away.
No.
And it was awful.
And that sent you right to the wrestling room.
I mean, yeah, it was. Oh man, I've never actually hit anybody and hurt them before. You know, I've never.
It's
been
harder.
In a fight. I've never.
It's harder to punch somebody. It's harder to punch somebody than you would think. I mean,
but how did I miss? He was right there. He was standing right in front of me.
It's like the kid I fought in high school too, you know, and I did hit him, but I promise you, it did not have very much power. It's when you don't know the mechanics of throwing a punch, you don't know it. Your body doesn't know it.
Man, it was at that point in my life, it may have been one of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to me at that point.
And so obviously there was other kids in the locker room.
Oh yeah,
there was other kids in the locker room that saw it.
We were all waiting in the locker room to leave to go to lunch because it was like gym and then lunch or whatever. So everybody were all lined up. Everybody's lined up, so they're all watching this happen.
Yeah,
it was not good, dude.
So did you? So was that in middle school, and then you went and wrestled in high school?
That was like freshman year, I think, is when that happened. Okay. Yeah, and then I went and wrestled, and I remember other embarrassing thing was this other kid. So I went to a couple different schools. There was this kid named Jason. Fucking ironically, his name is Jason Larson, and I have a friend named Jason Larson too. But his name's Jason Larson, and I remember he was an asshole, and he went to this one high school where I was a freshman at, and or sophomore. Went to a bunch of different schools, and he would always pick on me, always, talk shit, push me around. Not like give me your lunch money, but he would pick on me. And I remember when I went to a different school and I was wrestling there, we went back to wrestle at this school. And he was in my weight class, which was 135 weight class. And I remember wrestling him, and he beat me. And I hated it so much, man. The fact that guy, he didn't pin me. I wouldn't let him pin me, but he beat me, and that was really frustrating. And I remember my dad watching, and I remember telling my dad, I'm going to beat this guy. This is the guy that I don't like, and I'm going to beat him. And then he beat me, and I was really embarrassed and sad and disappointed in myself. And yeah, that sucked, man. People don't understand how hard it is. Wrestling is really hard. You're in there for a few minutes, and there's very little things you do in your life, almost nothing that I can think of. Even if you're going, like, people run or they bike or whatever, and they think that they're really giving it their all. Like I'm gonna bike as fast as I can. It is it is nothing compared to having your hands on another human being, and they're trying to do what they want at 100%, and so are you. It is every part of your body. It's the whole thing. And there's no exertion that I've ever felt that is anything like grappling. with another person, and you're just pushing and pulling, and it's everything you've got. Biking, running, sprinting. I can't think of anything like it.
Yeah, for sure. The cardio is different. You know, a runner can run, but they can't swim. But it is elevated with grappling for sure. Um, you know, it's particularly difficult to control someone who knows the double leg, the single leg, you know, and the defenses, and has a foundation to grappling. When you
Yeah.
both have that, and you're both the same weight class, and you both want to win, it's pretty difficult.
It's like walking up and pushing on a wall as hard as you can. Basically, is what I would kind of compare it to. And
Yeah, it's
yeah, it's wild. I mean, you are, after a couple rounds, you are gassed.
yeah.
I can't even think of anything that's gassing me out as much as that. So you left the golf, you started doing the mixed martial arts stuff, and you went on to become a MMA fighter with the UFC. That's like, I feel like that's your trajectory. Like, knowing you and how much you pour yourself into things, was that ever a goal? Is that something you wanted to do? Did you see yourself doing
the
that?
the last 5 years, well, I'm 35, and I don't know, maybe my late 20s, I really wished I could turn back time, you know, so that I was a little younger and healthier. Golf, dirt bikes, skateboarding, all that stuff did a number on my back. So I've definitely had a lot of back pain. And if it wasn't for that, I definitely would have tried to fight even later, probably later in my, you know, pushing 30. I actually signed up. So, but to answer the question, yeah, I definitely wanted to fight. I wish I had wrestled and didn't golf.
You signed
Because
up? What do you mean you signed up?
well, I signed up I was going to do a backyard, like a backyard cage fight, like years ago. Even I want,
Is
I
that where
think
they
we had,
is that where they throw the guy up in the air and he lands on the table?
no, that's like, it's like dirt floor and hay bales and a bunch of degenerates just hanging out back there,
Like,
you know, rooting Randy on to beat the shit out of Scott. You know, that was, but I was training at the last place we lived in Santa Clarita, and it was you know, I mean, it was a mix. This was the most MMA gym I've ever trained at, where we had a couple guys fighting in the UFC, and I trained with them. And one of them, that was my weight class, I helped him get ready for a couple fight camps for sure. Was one of his like main training partners for getting ready. And I just loved it. I loved every bit of it. And so for years I'm like, I'm not going to fight because my back is screwed up. But if I can be a part of their, you know, of their training camps, and just, you know, the better that I become and the better training partner I become, I can sort of walk alongside them and help, and sort of be, you know, have one foot in without. So at one point there was a guy that I had trained with here and there over the years, that was doing this. He was doing all kinds of like smokers fights and different smaller, you know, organizations, and he was having a lot of success. And he was somebody that I was doing well against when I would grapple with him. And then he ended up, he was the champion of this small like backyard fight club. It was not really a fight club. It was like this little fight organization. And
dude, that's,
you know,
organization, club, kind of the same thing.
probably not call it an organization, but yeah. So, but he told me, hey, if you want to do one of these, because I said, man, I'd love to just get in there and just let it, you know, just have at it. So he's like, let me know, and, you know, I'll get you a fight. And so I said, yeah, I want to fight. Let me know. And so I went through a whole fight camp. They had somebody for me, and I went through the entire process, the nerves and trains. That was the best shape. One of the best seasons of like being in good shape of my life. But my opponent dropped out the night before the fight. So I went through the whole thing and didn't get to do it. And it was a huge letdown. And then I kind of thought,
someone
well,
was like, hey man, I know this dude. You don't want to fight this guy. You don't want to fight this guy. Was there like,
Well,
why did this
I
guy
don't,
drop out?
I was definitely, I don't know if, I don't think it was that, but the guy that I was friends with who had been doing well in this, I asked him the reason I did it because I was kind of sandbagging it. I'd been grappling for like at the time probably 7 years or something like that. Like done some jujitsu tournaments and had a little bit of success there. And I'm like, I'm doing some boxing and kickboxing and doing pretty well in the gym. And so he was like, I said, how you think I'm going to do well? He goes, yeah. He's like, you're going to do really well. So I had a lot of confidence, but I doubt the guy, he didn't drop out because he knew who I was or something like that.
Do you know why?
It could have been anything. He might have gotten nervous just to do the fight because it wasn't like some,
Was there money involved? Were you going to win like
No.
$50 or like a gift certificate to In-N-Out or something?
No, there are some little like underground things that you can that you can definitely bet on yourself at. This one wasn't. This was just a backyard, like literally dirt. It didn't even have a cage. It was just hay bales, and like you get to the edge, and people are just pushing you back in. I was so excited. I was so ready to do it. Like so nervous, and my coach, he put me through this one night of just everybody beating on me. Like a 30-minute straight, like just grappling session to just wear me down, to kind of just show me like, hey, you were really tired, right? Well, that was like, you thought you were going to die 15 minutes ago and you still made it 30 minutes. And anyway, and he gave me a little pep talk because I think I had 2 days before the fight. And he goes, and I remember the last thing he said was, he goes, look, man, this is whoever you fight, they're going to come 100%. It's like, just bite down on your mouthpiece hard. And I just remember thinking, that's great advice. I don't want to get my jaw broken just in case,
That's like a line for life. Just
bite down on your mouthpiece hard.
Because life's coming for you, man. Life's coming for you. So I went back and I looked at your Instagram over the last couple days and YouTube and stuff like that. And it looks like about 55 weeks ago, a little over a year, you went, I kind of like doing this. And you started putting out this content. It kind of started with, just there's a couple of characters I could see. Like, if you watch the evolution, you can see your evolution. If you go watch everything in like succession, you can see it. Why did you start? What was the inception of, I'm going to do a funny video? Or did you just do it for fun and it kind of happened? Or how did this all come together?
Well, I've always enjoyed entertainment and comedy and all of that. And I was doing like a little YouTube channel to just see how I could do with filming videos and learning how to edit and everything like that. And I'd done it for like a year, and I thought, there's all these funny things that you see happen. I think I can kind of tell the story accurately, and make it funny. I think people might like it. But I thought about that for like a year and a half, 2 years, about making these little skits before I ever did one. And it was just based on watching funny interactions, at car shows and things like that.
Did you expect it to? Well, first of all, what does viral mean to you when something goes viral? I mean, people have different definitions of that. What does that mean to you?
Probably a million views plus is probably viral to me.
Okay. So did you expect to get any of that kind of attention when you were doing this? Did you have kind of, because when I've talked to you about this stuff, there's times I've talked to you when you go, I know this one will work. Like I have I have a certain amount of, it's almost like you've got a gun belt on and you've got all these shells on, and each one of these shells is this is kind of how you explain it to me. And this is how I explain it back, is that you've got all these shells and each one of those is each round is a funny idea. And like you're like holding powder on some of these ideas because they're good, and you just know they'll be great, they'll be funny. And after seeing you talk about them and then release one, and then it works and it does really well, I believe you. Did you feel that way when you first started?
No, 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 that it takes a lot to put yourself out there on the internet and, and film yourself doing something that clearly looks stupid. Like you're doing something that is, I'm making funny faces. I'm playing these characters. It's obviously silly. And so to put yourself out there and have it flop, it's a little, especially in the beginning, it was a little intimidating, but I just kind of thought this would be fun. I think that these little mini stories of, you know, of just, the human experience are interesting. And I think it'd be fun to do. I wasn't really sure how it would go, um, but yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to just kind of provide some entertainment and
And poke fun at people just a little bit is always
yeah,
there's always a little bit of truth in all the humor. Um, what has been your
yeah, yeah,
biggest
yeah.
struggle with doing this stuff?
Um, the biggest struggle, I don't know. I think that's probably the biggest struggle is just putting yourself out there. Like how stupid is this? How is this gonna, how are people gonna kind of take this? But at the end of the day, um, it's just supposed to be fun, and um, you can't spend very much time worrying about what people think. That's
Anybody
that's a
take you too seriously?
I've had a few people kind of get upset about things I've done, but nothing crazy though.
No, everybody seems to take it in stride. I think the bring a trailer ones are great. Do you have a favorite character? Is there a favorite character of yours?
I probably this Dale character.
Is
I
he
was
the one
thinking
with
about it
the
the
is
other,
he the one with the Luft hat on? That's Dale,
yeah, with
right?
like the
Okay.
big tall hat,
Yep.
right? And it's like, and it's because you know you get around a bunch of Porsche people, and you get some snooty folks in the mix, and I realized the other day, I'm like, I'm really comfortable playing this character, not only because I've seen different versions of this so many times
Yeah.
in the car community, but also like on the golf course.
Really?
I wasn't playing golf at some luxury place as a kid. It would be considered, in the grand scheme of golf, it'd be considered a pretty budget track, um, but I definitely traveled to a lot of really, really fancy golf courses and was around a lot of snooty people. And so I'm pretty comfortable, you know, and familiar with how they act and everything.
I create content too, different kind of content. I've thought about um, doing some comedy. I have ideas, and I think hanging around with you has colored what I think I would want to do. And I've certainly gone to myself, oh, I can't really do that. Gideon will think I'm copying him, so I can't do it. Um,
Do
but
it.
I know, but it has encouraged me to maybe step out of the zone a little bit. And one thing I, however, one thing I really struggle with is when you put yourself out there and you start relying on the algorithm and the likes and the hearts and the comments and the engagement and the views and stuff like that to validate what you do, I think it can become really dangerous. Um,
Yeah.
I had a moment in my life where I remember just I was sitting in the garage and I was on my phone and my kid came out and said, "Dad, do you want to watch a movie?" And I was making a reel or something. I don't know what I was doing. I said, "I can't. I'm working." And I kind of went, or maybe I was like responding to DMs because I used to do all these stories. I don't remember exactly how this. It's kind of like this nebulous thing that just kind of happened. But what was happening was I was doing all these stories and I would document my projects on my stories. And it would be like of everything I was doing. I was working on welding, putting stuff together, whatever. And what that would cause is it would cause hundreds of DMs, hundreds of DMs, and I would have just all these people, and everybody was cool. Nobody was like, the problem is I don't know any of them, right? So I don't know any of these people. I'm having conversations with all these people that I don't know, and 99% of them I'll never meet. And that's cool, but that's what's cool about social media is you can have these conversations, right? And most people that have like 500 followers, 1,000, 1,500 followers are having these conversations with like 5 or 10 people, right? But when you have 30,000 followers, 80,000 followers, 150,000, who knows? I'm sure it scales up exponentially. You could never stop. I could do the stories for a day, all the projects that I'm doing, and I could interact with all of these people, and I could never stop. And never stop having these conversations. You create the stories, you're having these conversations with people. And what I realized was what was happening is that I was looking for validation of what I was doing from how much engagement and conversation I was getting. And I remember I was sitting there going like, oh man, I just told my kid to go away so I can talk to all these fucking people that I don't even know. What am I doing? And
Mm-hmm.
I quit right there. I stopped. I still I shifted over to doing my projects as reels. So I was like shooting all this content and like editing it up and putting it into a reel and then throwing that out there. And it didn't really get the engagement that I wanted. And I'm like, well, this isn't worth my time. I'd rather just work on the car and enjoy it. Which that's what I do now is I work in the garage by myself. I don't record anything. I just do it. My kids come help me sometimes to record that, whatever, which has been really great for me. But do you have anyway? So I was getting my affirmation of who I was and what mattered from hundreds and hundreds, thousands of strangers. And I was like, I can't do that. I got to stop. And I was wondering if you've had any struggles with, as you're creating content you're essentially, you sometimes feel like you're creating content for a robot. You know what I mean? You're creating this content for the algorithm and for the people that are watching it. Do you ever have any of these, personal struggles with, how you get your identity and your affirmation and everything like that?
Well, when I first started making the content, I just did things that I thought were funny and interesting to me, and then you can easily get caught into like, well, what do people like or what do they want to see? And then you get caught up into kind of creating content based on that. Certainly it's like a dopamine hit, right? When you get a bunch of, it's like, whoa, this is going viral. People are loving this. This is clearly a win. And then when it doesn't happen, it's like a whew, am I not great? Or what's the problem here? Maybe I hit it once and it's not going to work anymore or whatever. And see, I've had some moments where I've been like, yeah, this is uh, this is challenging to just kind of spend too much time thinking about that. Wondering what whether it's the um, whether it's like the successes or the failures in just creating content. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think I've had some challenges with that, but um, it's ultimately always come back to just like,
I
am I
think my
having
internet
fun
just
doing
died.
this? And am I what's the purpose of it? I think I may have lost you.
Petrolbox is a monthly service made specifically for the automotive enthusiast. Each month, they carefully select items including tools, detailing supplies, apparel, garage gear, stickers, and publications to be sent right there to your doorstep. It's a curated selection of the latest and greatest gear in the industry, and there's actually 2 different levels of subscription to choose from. The Petrolbox Basic costs less than $20 a month, while the Petrolbox Premium gets you even more gear for $39.95 a month. Check them out at mypetrolbox.com and be sure to use the code Overcrest at checkout to get $6 off your first month.
So I was having trouble getting where I was getting my identity from, right? Like, was my identity coming from people I met on the internet? Was my identity coming from my family? And I was having conflict with where my personal self value was coming from. Just wondering if you've had any struggles and how you've dealt with, everybody that is a content creator struggles with the algorithm, right? I'm just wondering how you've dealt with that.
I've never dealt with that. Yeah, I think that's the worst part about social media, but this is like, it's crazy the kind of the world that we live in now, and how much takes place, online. And even if you're not making content, uh, you're if you're spending a decent amount of time online, you're vulnerable to, just comparing yourself to others, worrying about what other people are thinking, and those types of things, which are not good for your mental health. So I think creating content on a regular basis, it comes with challenges for sure.
I mean, the algorithm is basically a robot that's deciding what's funny in a way. I mean, obviously, if
Right.
it's funny, people will engage with it, right? So you have
The
like
robot
this,
doesn't decide. The algorithm does not decide what's funny. I mean, it's if something is funny and interesting, and it gets shared a lot of times, that's the deciding factor,
right?
because it's the whole goal is to keep people on there as long as possible.
Do you struggle with, when something does poorly and you thought it was a great idea and does it bum you out?
Yeah, but to be honest, the majority of the stuff I've made that hasn't done well were things that I was just kind of like, this is odd or different, and I want to experiment and see if this works. So I haven't made very many pieces of content that I thought, this is really good, like this is gonna hit, and I think people are really gonna enjoy this, and then it flops. That really, to be honest, that hasn't happened a whole lot of times, and mainly it's just because of like the formula of I think relatability is like, everyone that makes content kind of knows that's, if someone watches it and goes, yep, I've seen this guy act like an asshole and treat somebody else shitty, and it's kind of funny how stupid some people can be, you know, um, that's kind of like, that's a piece that can make something really
So what do you want to
shareable.
do now, man? What's next? Obviously, you've got the funny thing down. I think you're really, really good at that. What do you really
Thank
want to
you.
do? Like, what do you really want to do?
Um, I would like to keep taking it up to the next, I'd like to take it to the next level of just production and storytelling. Um, so I think that that's something I've been told that I'm good at, like from your wife, who tells you, she's supposed to, but like just people in your life, like people in my life have told me like I'm a good storyteller, and so I think that's really what I would like to do. It's just to get better and better at doing that.
Just crafting content in a way that tells a story.
Right.
Is there stories that you're really interested in? Is there something that you would really like to tell? Anything you'd like to dig into?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's uh, more serious messages that I would like to, um, you know, that I would like to work on. Not just the kind of lighthearted or silly type of stuff, but things that could actually help people.
What's on your mind? Like what? Anything in particular?
Nothing in particular. Like, lots of things. Like what, like I think I could tell a compelling story about um, limiting your time on the internet so that that your mental health is good.
Yeah.
All of those kind of things, because it's really it's so important, so, and it could be things that, I mean, because I'm a man, I think about kind of messaging to younger men, about what it's like, or important things about being a man, and not falling into being so concerned with what other people think, and comparing yourself, and focusing just on wealth and who's got the nicest car and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, society has really hit fatherhood, and I don't know if masculinity is the right word, but it's really hit the core of what it means to be a man. And that means different things to different people. I understand that. But I think that society needs men. And I think it's definitely been under attack in some way. I know that society evolves and changes, right? Over the course of, 1,000 years, what it means to be a man now and what it means to be a man 1,000 years ago is completely different. But in the last 20 years, it's rapidly changing. And I don't know that, society has had a time to react properly. And I think that people are struggling. I think people are struggling with that quite a bit.
For sure. And I mean, and I think that's really what would be a motivating factor for me to create some content that would be really positive for doesn't have to just be for men, but in general, just positivity, because there's so much negativity on the internet, and I think that a balance is really important. Like, mainstream media is definitely not focused on telling a bunch of positive, uplifting stories, right? They're opportunistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I really appreciate you coming on to hang out with me. I look forward to hanging out with you many more times throughout the course of my life. And it's been really crazy watching you grow so fast over the last year. I felt like when I started writing these notes, I'm like, oh, it's been like 3 years. Nah, it's been barely a year. And I think even less than that since you really started taking this seriously. And I have high expectations. Not expectations. I feel like you will do well. And it's been amazing watching it happen.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate our friendship, and thanks for having me on here very much. So it's great. It's great chatting.
All right. Take care, buddy.
All right, man. Cheers.